Inflation is all about money. I mean, literally, the word inflate means to expand. That's where it comes from. Prices don't expand. Prices go up, they go down, but they don't expand. What expands is the money supply. And so that's literally what inflation means. It means to expand the money supply, inflate the money supply, inflation. And if you get an old dictionary, even as late as the 1970s, Webster's dictionary, that's how it defines inflation. Expansion of the money supply. Well, who's in charge of the money supply? The Federal Reserve. And so the Federal Reserve causes inflation. How does it cause inflation? When it prints money to buy U.S. government bonds, when it monetizes deficits. So inflation comes from the government running deficits, and then the Federal Reserve printing up the money to buy those bonds. So we're having massive inflation right now, created by the government, working with the Federal Reserve, and prices are going to go way up. And it's got nothing to do with consumers or the public. It's all caused by the government, and it's bad. It's a tax.
Let's talk about the situation here at home. Families are feeling a hit from the highest inflation in 40 years right now, costing the average American family about $275 a month. What can Congress do right now to bring those costs down?
Well, let me just talk about the inflation thing, because people are saying, well, what we're spending is causing inflation. The fact that people have jobs always contributes to an increase in inflation, and that's a good thing. What contributes to inflation? More people having jobs, scarcity of product, which makes prices go up, and the rest.
There is a puzzle at the heart of American political life right now. Why are people so gloomy about an economy that is so strong? But almost no economist predicted the force of the current recovery. Growth in 2021 came in at 5.7%, the highest in almost 40 years. The unemployment rate is 4%. Poverty has fallen below pre-pandemic levels. Child poverty has decreased by almost 40% in 2021. New businesses are forming at a record rate. Bankruptcies are falling, and American savings are healthy. And yet, American consumer confidence is at a decade low. A Gallup poll in January found that 82% of Americans felt that the country was on the wrong track. Joe Biden has the lowest approval ratings for this point in his presidency compared to any modern president other than Donald Trump. New York Times columnist Paul Krugman points out that by historical standards, inflation is not all that high and wages are in good shape. So he faults a media narrative, especially from right-wing media, that has put all the focus on inflation and not enough on jobs. As a result, he notes, Republicans believe that the economy today is worse than in June 1980, a time when inflation was 14% and real wages were declining 6% a year. But I wonder if there's a larger issue at play. People are not responding rationally to objective data. Right now, we are living in intensely polarized partisan times. Questions about consumer confidence or about the country being on the right or wrong track are meant to get at people's views of the world outside of politics. But nothing lies outside of politics anymore. Intangible fears are today more important than objective facts.
This time last year, we tried to tell the Biden administration not to pour trillions of dollars into this economy. The basic fundamentals of economics have to work. A high schooler taking an economics class could figure this out, but the White House can't. This is unbelievable inflation of 40 years. So it is real. It is hurting families. And the president still tries to spin it as the economy is doing good. Mississippians aren't buying that. It is not doing good in Mississippi or anywhere else in the country. And I wish the president would have heeded the warnings of The Economist, and he needs to do that now because we're hurting. It is real. These are real stories. And we can do better than this, and the American people certainly deserve better than this.
You mentioned inflation, Charlie, and the stock market is down a bit this year, maybe because of inflation, also the tensions in Russia and Ukraine. Maybe we'll get to that in a second. But I want to ask you specifically about inflation. Are we looking at a prolonged decline in the markets because of inflation? Is inflation on the rise? And should we be concerned about it?
Well, let me take that in the reverse order. inflation is a very serious subject. You can argue it's the way democracies die. When democracy dies in Latin America, inflation is a big part of it. So it's a huge danger once you've got a populace that learns it can vote itself money. If you overdo it too much, you ruin your civilization a lot. And so, of course, it's a big, long-range danger. If you look at the Roman Republic, and even after they went to an empire with an absolute ruler, they inflated the currency steadily for hundreds of years, and eventually the whole damn Roman Empire collapsed. So it's the biggest long-range danger we have, probably, apart from nuclear war.
Is it something investors need to be worried about, specifically when it comes to growth stocks right now?
Well, I think the safe assumption for an investor is that over the next 100 years, the currency is going to zero. That's my working hypothesis.
Wow. Well, that'll be a different type of environment, won't it?
A very dangerous environment.
And what about the
What brought in
Federal
Hitler
Reserve?
was the combination. What brought in Hitler was the combination of the Weimar inflation, where they utterly destroyed the savings of the middle class in Germany, followed by the Great Depression. It was a 1-2 punch. And Hitler came in, crazy demagogue, with 40% of the votes, and pretty soon we had a dictator hell-bent for world war. So the history is not pleasant. And Germany was a very advanced and civilized nation, the Germany that Hitler took over. So if you let your nation deteriorate too much, what you get is a Hitler.